quite a diverse and international audience today. Welcome to the Sharjah RTI Digitization Lab. This is our first event of 2021. We're very excited. We've rolled back into full normalcy in physical form and in virtual form as well. Today we'll be joined by Mr. Tejas from Siemens. He's the head of digital enterprise business, Siemens Middle East, and Mr. Abdul Hussein, who's the co-founder and CTO of Grape Technology. I won't give much introduction. I'll leave the stage to them at some point for them to introduce what they've been working on. I will be kicking off the session introducing the park itself and what we've been up to, followed by Mr. Tejas, followed by Mr. Abdul Hussein. So the Sharjah RTI Park, we position ourselves as a regional gateway for innovation and business growth, not only for the UAE, but also for the Middle East and North Africa region. Always the difficulties of things. There we go. So the UAE leadership always set the stage when it comes to innovation, when it comes to diplomacy or anything in regards from the international perspective to a local perspective. And who we are today and everything that we are achieving is based on the leadership that have been laying out the grounds for us for the past few decades and for the next few decades to come. So about the park itself, chaired by His Royal Highness Sheikh Dr. Sultan bin Mohammed Al Qasimi, the chairman of the park and the ruler of Sharjah. He's been building this beautiful project for the past few decades when it comes to initially starting with the university city and laying out the foundations for where we are today at the tech park itself. We have a few mandates. On a high level, it's to build an innovation ecosystem, and this is both by stimulating venture creation from the local environment to the regional environment, and by attracting ventures that are like-minded, that are ready to really tap into the Middle East and North Africa region, that we will be able to leverage our ecosystem to support them to grow. And naturally, generating an employment, this is a byproduct of that success. And we look forward to supporting companies to grow, because the more they grow, the more they will acquire the talent that we have in the university city that we can leverage, the talent that's already in the UAE and the Middle East for them to flourish. Catalyzing the knowledge economy is a massive point for the UAE, and this is something we are very much so in supporting, and obviously investing for the future. So when it comes to and building an innovation ecosystem that is supportive for the growth of innovation, this is why we're very well positioned to support different types of ventures, whether they're startups or SMEs or corporates. The RTI is a semi-government, semi-academic, and private industry at the same time. So we're able to be very agile and supporting our partners to grow in the region, whether it's access to government projects, whether it's tapping into the academic R&D institutes, or access to the business aspect. When it comes to focus areas, we've primarily focused on deep tech or the forward-thinking innovation and initiatives that are going on in the region to see the development of the actual Middle East and North Africa from a physical perspective, yet alone just from the UAE. All of them are sort of interconnected to one another, whether it's from water to environmental to renewable to healthcare and digitization, mobility, logistics, and smart cities, which I'm sure Tejas will be able to add a lot of insights on, and so will Abdul Hussein, and production design and architecture. So who we are as an ecosystem and what we have achieved over the past 2 years approximately, we've already have on the ground 6 anchor deep tech pilots, from photovoltaics all the way to mass transport and innovation. I'll run you through some of them eventually. We have attracted over $100 million in FDI towards the park. And today we boast over 80 companies. Actually, the correct number is 85 companies today working from the park from all over the world. And these are comprised of startups, comprised of SMEs and corporates. And one of the very unique USPs of the Sharjah Research and Technology Park is the fact that we are directly tied into the university city in Sharjah, which has over 40,000 students and 22 universities. So from a critical mass of talent, it's one of the richest talent pools in the region. And it's our role to really activate that and to connect our ecosystem with these talents so they can be able to collaborate with one another. this is the master plan on a high level, and just a few snapshots of what's been going on over the past couple of years and what's yet to come. We've been building relations on a global scale because at the end of the day, a tech transfer type of community needs to have these relations with with international communities that are like-minded, from R&D institutes to universities to different corporates, that we need to always be able to tap into, which again is for the betterment of our ecosystem. When it comes to Sharjah, we did a report a couple of years ago on comparing Sharjah to an international community, whether it's comparing it to Cambridge, to Shenzhen in China, who are also very, let's say, forward-thinking when it comes to breeding innovation. So Sharjah is very well positioned with all the different type of components that lay out the infrastructure for it to further develop. One of the Skyway is a Belarusian technology, which was the mass transport project, which I mentioned earlier, which is being piloted. The first rail is already up and running, and the second and third rail, which is going to be targeting not only passenger transport, but also the transport of cargo. This is a very exciting project, which will pretty much transform the transportation transportation for both passengers and cargo. We've got another forward-thinking and leading institute when it comes to agriculture and sustainable technologies, Merlin. They've got their own plot of land, and which they've developed on the park. Civil Twin is a Spanish photovoltaic company that they've already set up their R&D facility on solar. Napta Health is one of the leading women's hybrid healthcare platforms. What we mean by hybrid is both a physical device and a digital platform, and they're one of the leading institutes and also an R&D focused company that is one of the early ones with us at the park, and they're growing with us on a day-by-day, and which we're supporting them to grow. One of the investments that we have done here at the park is the Sharjah Open Innovation Lab, which, think of it as a gym membership for people who like to create prototypes, or companies that need to fast track prototype creation. This is a fast prototyping lab, and it will be inaugurated within the next couple of days, actually, which we're very, very excited for. And this is also a tool and a real platform for all of the technologies and all of the industries that we're focusing on, because at the end of the day, we've always dependent on factories that are international for them to create prototypes, but all of this now can be localized, which is another mandate here at the park. So another very important factor, which I mentioned earlier, is seeing spin-offs straight from the universities, and seeing venture creation that is kind of plugged out of the universities that we can help them commercialize. One of the projects is on 3D concrete printing, which is currently at the park. The other one is on conductive concrete, which is a sort of patent that is defended against electromechanical waves, for example. We're also working on another project on exoskeletons, which is quite phenomenal, and the applications for this industry can be very, very wide. On top of all the physical pilots and on top of all the companies that are here, we're always launching different activations and different initiatives that would further add value to our ecosystem and to the international ecosystem that would benefit from the Research and Technology Park. So the Women in Tech Forum was launched last year, and we had over 5,000 digital visitors, and it was we had the Women in Tech one was actually a physical one. Sorry, these days we're getting very confused. The circular economy is a very high point on our agenda to things. The Sharjah Advanced Industry Accelerator was our first accelerator, which we just concluded. We had 8 finalists and 1 major finalist and winner, which was EVA, which is a French drone servicing company. And we will have all of those 8 companies at the park working from here and scaling across the region. The MENA Innovation Tech Transfer was the one that I mentioned earlier, which had 5,000 visitors from all over the world. That was a tech summit, which we're extremely proud of. And this is going to be a constant and recurring initiative from our side to kind of add value to the overall ecosystem. Webinars are a tool for every type of startup or corporate to always engage, like what we're doing here, and for the audience to always learn more about new things, and for different countries to really connect, because we know what's going on and we know what's next, but we also see the opportunities for that. So this is why we're always trying to engage with the external ecosystem, so we can educate and so we can collaborate and also learn from our guests and attendees. Many more events that we've been launching, such as the Middle East, the 3D Emerging Tech Exhibition, which was also concluded in the month of December, if I'm not mistaken. We had tons of companies who came in and participated and displayed their projects and their different type of technologies which they were working on. I hope I didn't pass my time. Next up will be Mr. Tejas from Siemens. We have been ramping up our, let's say, allow me just to give the 1 second. Adham, could you support, please? This is not a great time for my laptop to start acting up, I guess. There we go. You got control, Mr. Tejas? You're on mute.
Okay, brilliant.
All right, perfect. So we've been wrapping up our collaboration with Siemens quite a lot recently. They've also participated in the Sharjah Advanced Industry Accelerator. Actually, the winning startup was the one which you guys were developing the specific project with. And Siemens, no one needs the introduction to them, but we're looking forward to seeing what you guys have been working on. Thank you, Tejas. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Tarek. First of all, I would like to thank Sharjah Research Technology and Innovation Park for the continued trust in Siemens and for allowing us to engage in various thought leaderships, technology, and also knowledge sharing sessions such as this. And like Tarek mentioned, we've been engaged with SRTI for a long time now, and specifically on subject of smart cities or smart buildings. This is something that we are very passionate about, and Siemens is very heavily invested into creating future cities or workplaces of the future. But when we say smart city is a very wide topic and a diverse topic. So today's session, just to limit to the time as well, I would like to keep to a specific subject called workplaces, which is primarily anything. Could be offices, could be malls for people who work in malls, hospitals for doctors, nurses, and other technicians who work in healthcare industry, or could be logistics. All of these are workplaces, and about 80% of the population today has resorted to some kind of remote working if they are office-based workers, but others, frontline workers who have to be in the hospitals or in the logistics sector to ensure that our deliveries on Amazon or on Noon are delivered to our doorstep, have worked tirelessly. So there is technology available in the market which can support creating resilient workplaces so that we can adopt to the new normal. And that's the subject of today's discussion that I'll have. And I'll be very brief and try to cover a few aspects which are something that Siemens is offering to the customers in the region and to help businesses create safer and secure workplaces. When you look at the current trend itself, the requirements of the workplace has evolved. All the stuff that you're seeing on screen have become a new normal now. Wherever you go, you're advised to wear a mask, limit yourself in terms of capacity in a place, be it a shop or be it a meeting room. Same thing in terms of be it where social distancing, including parks or even in the mall. You have to constantly ensure your social distancing, and the cleaning procedures itself have peaked. So this was a new normal of some time ago, but now it's become a norm in an everyday activity. And technology that exists or existed previously had to be adopted to ensure these kind of challenges for the businesses have been fulfilled in a seamless and efficient manner. Come at the IoT. IoT is not a new term or new technology. All of you would be aware of various kinds of IoT applications or use cases. What we're talking about is edge devices which are wireless and can do multiple sensing through the same device itself, which can create an infrastructure or a wireless mesh in the workplace to create intelligence and provide the required data to the operator, as well as the comfort and confidence for the employees who are returning to the workplace. The smaller and more concise the device, better, because it is non-intrusive and you can actually not meddle with the aesthetics of the location, and also do not create, it has to allow for the offices and the workplaces to be open. You don't want to create a lot of plexiglass banners or barriers and a lot of restrictions in terms of red tape. You still want people to come into the workplace, interact with each other while limiting exposure, while keeping within the limits itself. And that's what we're talking about by introducing IoT into the workplace. Once you have deployed your IoT technologies, there could be various things that you could enable. Four key things that we are showcasing here are: one is the contact tracing aspect, because yes, we are now being all vaccinated. It may take a little time for all of us to actually be vaccinated and for this pandemic to end. But until then, we still have to be cautious and be safe and take necessary precautions. And in case, God forbid, there is a outbreak of an infection in any location, you want to be able to actually trace and identify digitally who are the people who have come in contact with. And that's one of the use cases you can fulfill with IoT. Second is the occupancy limits. There are two ways to do it. One is, yes, you can have a people counter at the door to ensure the number of people on the floor is limited, but that only goes so far by saying, yes, on floor number 9, there are currently 30%, but you don't know where those 30% are occupied. So tracking the occupancy, density, and limits is another key area that you could address with the IoT technology that we offer, or there are other technologies in the market also who are driving towards this. Then we come to motion tracking and trade. What are we doing? You want to know how busy is a certain area, how busy are the washrooms or corridors, where should I focus my cleaning, where should I de-densify, and lastly, human-centric lighting. So when we talk about safe or smart workplaces, yes, a workplace is smart, but if the workplace is not healthy, people don't feel confident or comfortable returning to the work. Just because we say, yes, we have sanitized the workplace, that may not instill confidence in the 100% of the workforce. And that's what we need to organically grow within the organization. And that's what we are trying to promote with our customers. Now, let's look at a few examples of it. Now, let's assume an office has this technology deployed. How would it look like? So what you see on the screen here, on the right side, yeah, typical office, people are moving about their work. The left side is what you see is actually capturing that motion digitally to create a digital footprint of the or footprint of the office to track all the motion in real time. And what do you get out of that? The benefit is for you to come up with all sorts of occupancy tracking details, like what you see on screen. You have the motion trails or the heat maps, which show you what's the density in certain areas of the office or a workplace, or be it applicable to even retail malls or supermarkets. You see certain queues or certain aisles are very busy. You could try and deploy additional cashiers or additional counters to de-densify that area so that you can ensure social distancing. Or let's leave the pandemic aside. Otherwise, what is the technology used for? You could also see how is your space being utilized. Is your space being ideally utilized? Is there an area of possibility of de-densifying and moving the crowd around the other place of the office? If you see in this section of the floor plan itself, which is green, that means it's hardly utilized, versus the red section, which is more utilized. I could move a few teams from this section to the other section, because you have constant complaints about that section being very busy or crowded while the other section is always empty. So there are various use cases when you have this type of data available. Even now we look at the business side of things. So if the business owner wants to understand, where do I have the heavy traction of people coming into the mall or into the warehouse itself? How do I avoid crowds in certain areas? How do I serve my customers better? How do I reduce the waiting times of the people? These are all the benefits of deploying such technology to deliver better experience for the customers as well as the visitors or your employees itself. If you go one level further and you are able to tag the people within the location itself or the assets, you're able to do various things in terms of real-time location services. Could be like identifying or locating assets real time on a map, or identifying the shortest route between where you are and where you want to be, optimizing workflows. You could think of industrial plants or factories where you have people or colleagues of different teams working together. You can find the most optimized routes for you to assemble the products, or design your assembly lines or redesign your assembly lines, so you can ensure the highest productivity. And at the same time, you can ensure you are using your assets. Like in a case of a hospital, instead of ordering material in excess, you could have the optimal amount of material, but you're constantly aware of where a location of any asset is, be it BP machine, insulin pump, or a wheelchair, so that in case of an emergency, your staff knows where to retrieve it from and where does it have to be. So these are various other things you can actually do with real-time location services. Now, when you combine this with the end user applications, where you are actually putting the technology hands of the people or the occupants, you're able to create applications which are driven through the mobile interface itself. Could be for safe occupancy management, as you see on screen. You could see, should I actually occupy this floor, or can I sit on an alternate floor to actually conduct my work? Is it safe for me to actually host a meeting of 10 people in this particular room, or is it only limited to 4 people? So there are various types of uses that the end user can also benefit from the minute you actually enable a mobile interface for all of this technology. Demand-based cleaning. I come to my desk, I feel it's not clean or it's not sanitized. I should be able to immediately tap on maybe a QR code or some kind of an NFC reader to ask for cleaning crew to come and reset my desk or sanitize. Or at the same time, take responsibility when I vacate the meeting room to ensure I clean it for the next occupant. Like I said, digital contact tracing, and lastly, touchless experience. We always get notifications saying avoid touching the elevator buttons and then your face. So what if you can actually call the elevator from your mobile phone, or unlock a door or an access barrier through your mobile phone to gain access? So this is where we see the trends going, more touchless experience as we go. So physical cards may become lesser utilized, and we could resort to digital tokens on the phone itself to gain access into the workplace. So now when you put all of this technology, how would a user journey look in a typical workplace? How would you navigate a workplace? So this is one user journey of an individual or an employee working in a standard office building. By the time you enter the place itself, do you want to actually do hot desking and finding the best desk for you to work, or closer to your colleague or your team member, or away from all the noise because you want to actually sit down and do your focused work? Are you feeling safe to come into the office? You check your mobile phone itself and you see, yes, the occupancy at the office today is above 50%. I would decide to continue working from home. And while you're at the office, what are the best practices? Again, that information need to be available on the same interface itself. There's something called an app overload, or an app fatigue, where you have to have multiple applications on your phone to switch to go on with your work. And that defeats the whole purpose of having a unified platform. And we are trying to advocate having one common platform for carrying out the whole thing. And as you progress through the day, maybe booking a meeting room, finding a closest washroom or a hand washing station, and ultimately for the FM providers as well to identify how the buildings is being utilized and what's the contact events in case I have an event and I want to see what the outbreak is. All of the technology should be available on one unified platform. So from the back end, or for the building operator and the facility manager, how would that look? We kept talking about command and control center in the past, where you have a huge video wall with CCTV cameras, and then you have an FM system to handle all the alarms coming from other systems. But now it's more critical to have a workplace command and control center, where you're looking at things like meeting room occupancy or density on the floors, queue waiting times. How long are my outpatients waiting in the OPD department in a hospital? How long does it take for a customer to enter the retail shop and leave for him to bill? How do I minimize the time he's actually spent walking around looking for a particular thing? Employee wellness check. How are my employees feeling? How many of them are sick, or how many of them were actually exposed to an infection? Could be in other things like, how do I create a better experience for the visitor? How do I ensure that they are able to connect to my guest Wi-Fi seamlessly without having to go through multiple clicks? These are all the technologies that we are able to expose to the platform, and ultimately create one unified platform to deliver all of this use cases and user journeys itself. And the whole thing of user experience is one thing, but also for the building owner and the operator, you want to ensure the building is energy efficient, it's safe, and it retains value to attract better tenants. You don't want to invest heavily into a building technology and ultimately not having it fit for purpose or not being utilized more. So with that, I would wrap up to say what Siemens is doing in this space and introducing IoT technologies into the workplaces itself to create a safe and healthy workplace to allow the return of work and to adapt to the new normal. I know, as Tarek said, we have a question answer session towards the end. So I will stay on the call and happy to take more questions from you as we get to that segment. Over to you, Tarek.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Diaz. That was great. I've got a few questions for myself, which I will jot down for later. Next up, we have Mr. Abdul Hussein. He's the co-founder and CEO of Grape Technology. Adham, could you... Abdul Hussein, I believe you have...
Hello, everyone. Can I share my screen now?
Yes, you are.
All right. Okay, great. I hope my slides are visible to everyone.
Visible so far, yes.
All right, great. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Abdul Hussain. I'm the CTO and co-founder for Grape Technology. Happy to be here. Thank you, SRDIP, for arranging this webinar. So today, the topic for my discussion is tokenization. I'm going to be talking about tokenization, which is one of the most powerful features of blockchain. I'm going to take you through a few slides which introduces the concept and the potential of this powerful new technology that is available at our disposal. To start with a very brief introduction about Grape Technology. So but the company Grape Technology is a startup which is based out of Dubai. We work primarily on blockchain technology and also emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, robotic process automation. So we have been in operation for around 3 years. We have our flagship product is called Shahada, which basically digitizes your credentials on blockchain. So your education certificates or your school certificates, any kind of a digital credential that you receive from your educational institution, that with Shahada you can digitize them. We have implemented this for HCT, which is one of the leading universities here in the UAE, and a couple of other universities as well. Another project or a product that we have is around energy. So we basically have implemented a EV chain use case for Diva. And then we also do consulting on digital transformation for specifically for banks. I'll not spend too much time here. I will move on directly to the topic, tokenization. So what is tokenization, right? Tokenization, it's considered one of the most powerful blockchain use cases, right? And it is considered one of the killer application for blockchain, which will take blockchain as a technology to the mainstream. Today, everybody hears about Bitcoin and technology of blockchain, but you rarely see implementations which are real world implementations. But tokenization, is one of the feature of blockchain which can actually fast track the mainstream adoption of blockchain. And basically what tokenization is you take any digital asset, right? It could be real estate, it could be currency, it could be a painting, it could be a piece of rare jewel, anything, right? And you can represent that as a digital token on blockchain. So it takes the real world asset and finds a way to sort of completely digitize it. And once you have digitized this asset, you are able to trade it, right? And what happens is currently also, if you look at companies like payment companies like Visa, MasterCard, and there are other companies who sort of use this concept, not on blockchain, but they do use this concept. The challenge there is that this concept is proprietary. We don't have access, or the general population doesn't have access to use these tools because they are closed. But blockchain comes out as a technology and says that these software, this capability is available for everyone to access. right? That's the power that blockchain brings to the table here. I mean, you can not really talk about blockchain and not mention Bitcoin. And talking about Bitcoin, Bitcoin was the first successful use case that was implemented on blockchain, right? And Bitcoin is in effect a token, right? And that token currently is valued, the capitalization of Bitcoin, if you guys have been following the trends, the Bitcoin is currently trading around $35,000. And its current market capitalization is 700 billion USD, which is more than a lot of companies which have been around for decades. So, and the success story for Bitcoin basically proved that the technology for blockchain works, right? And Bitcoin, in effect, what it represents is digital currency. It basically says that you don't need, you can basically have digital money which you can send to people. The problem with before blockchain was that today we have capability of sharing images, sharing videos. We have this capability to share these things at our fingertips. We can use so many social media apps. But the challenge with digital has always been that once you share something with someone, you are making copies. So for example, when I'm sharing a photograph with someone, I'm sharing the photograph's copy, so I also have it, and the person who's receiving the copy also has it. When you talk about money, this cannot happen. Money does not work this way. So it is very important that when I'm sending money to someone, that money actually goes out of my account and is now available with the person who I sent it to. So this is the fundamental challenge that we had. And to overcome this challenge, traditionally, what we did was we relied on banks. We relied on centralized institutions. So we transfer via banks. So I tell the bank, make the transaction, the bank makes the transaction, and basically it says the transaction is done. But with Bitcoin, what Bitcoin says is that you can actually send money or Bitcoins to anyone across the globe without anyone in the middle. The technology makes sure that once you send the Bitcoin from your account to someone else's account, you will no longer have that Bitcoin with you, and it will have actually moved to the recipient. So gradually, when people saw this happening, right, there was like you were actually seeing that there is a possibility of having digital money on blockchain. People started thinking, right, can we also use this to represent things like rare items, property, art, commodities? And this challenge, that there's always been a challenge for real estate. The challenge is that this market is very illiquid. That means it's very difficult to monetize that market, and it has a lot of inefficiencies. Now just imagine a scenario where there is a real estate property which has to be inherited by several family members, right? With asset based tokens, what we can actually do is we can create digital tokens representing the property, right? And each token could be a fraction of that property, and that fraction could be distributed to each of these siblings or each of these family members who are supposed to have a share in this property. And when each of these people have their tokens, they have an option to keep it, or they have an option to sell these tokens on a security token exchange. Now, this gives everyone access to liquidate their ownership in the real estate property. They may decide to liquidate a part of it, or they may decide to liquidate all of it, or they may also decide to purchase more of it on the token exchange. So basically, what we are doing here is we are finding a way of trading this real estate property, which was relatively illiquid, and we are finding a way to sort of make that money liquid, and this unrealized liquidity is now available for everyone to access. Across the globe, this is one of the most popular use cases of tokenization. There are real estate platforms across, especially in US and Europe, who have managed to tokenize a lot of properties. What you see on the screen here is a couple of properties that have been listed for people to purchase via tokens. All these properties have been tokenized, and these tokenized exchange tokens are available on exchanges for people to actually invest, purchase or sell. uh, One of the US-based marketing real estate marketplace, which name is I think Red Swan, they actually tokenized $2.2 billion of worth of assets in the last couple of years, and all these assets are now available for purchase through a trading exchange. And the potential here is unlimited. And so as a person who owns property and you want to liquidate, you can decide to just liquidate a part of your property by just setting them up for sale on the exchange. Another tokenization example could be diamonds. So diamonds traditionally have a challenge that they are documented on paper, and it's very difficult to trace. You need to prove ownership and also find a way to make sure that these diamonds have not been stolen, or they have not come not fake or something like that, right? So tokenization of diamonds can also help achieve this. Every diamond has a way wherein it can be captured, and the ownership, the once the diamond has been captured and assessed, the identity of this diamond is written as a token on blockchain. And when somebody purchases a diamond or trades a diamond, this token will be exchanged, and this proves that this diamond is owned by this person. This solves a lot of problems that are already very rampant in this market, which is smuggling, fraud, counterfeit diamonds. All of these challenges are overcome. There's a company known as Everledger which has been working on this for a long time. And yeah, another powerful thing of tokenization that we also have been working on as Grape Technology is decentralized finance. Now, this is an extremely powerful concept which is relatively new and which has taken a lot of interest from the users recently. Decentralized finance is an umbrella term which applies to any cryptocurrency use case which involves banking and finance. The purpose of decentralized finance is to challenge the way the centralized banks work today, right? Any application that a bank can do, which could involve lending, borrowing, interests, and many other things like derivatives, securities, anything that we can think of. All these functions are offered through a variety of decentralized financial applications. And why do you think this is so important? Why this is so powerful? There are a lot of people across the globe who do not have access to banking. And these people, uh, uh, through decentralized finance, just having access to internet, you can get access to decentralized finance. So one of the popular decentralized financing company or open source protocol is known as Compound, right? In this protocol, what basically you can do is, and currently that is actually sitting on assets of $4 billion. So what this allows you to do is you can actually deposit your crypto tokens and earn interest on them. You can deposit your crypto tokens and you can actually offer them for lending. I can also, if I have access to cryptocurrency tokens, what I can also do is I can actually provide those tokens as collateral and actually get fiat money or real money in return as a loan. And all of this happens through automation. Not Traditionally, what banks do is that you have all these things and all these processes that have been built into the bank which are manual. With decentralized finance, everything is automated. There is no tampering because everything is controlled through smart contracts, and it can interact without any intermediary. So I can directly go to this marketplace and purchase a loan or actually deposit money without anyone at all in the middle. Now, these concepts are very, very radical, right? And they're very new. And this is not something, while we know that this is the future, we are moving to a future which is digitization. Everything we want to do online, right? And it's going at a very fast pace. But this is not something that's going to happen overnight. There are a lot of strides being made on this. But while technology is proven, changing culture, changing how we do business, changing how people work takes time. And regulatory and the governance frameworks are also not in place right now, especially in this region. But the new business opportunities and the new value proposition that this tokenization creates is immense and has amazing potential. It can create new business models, and it definitely makes sense to get on this bandwagon and try to understand what this technology can do. And it's perfect time to get involved with this emerging business landscape of tokenization. And actually we can digitize anything of value on blockchain through tokenization. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Abdul Hussein. That was really insightful. So the first question, I'm going to kick off a quick Q&A and then not go too far ahead of the time that we promised the audiences. The first question is directed to Siemens and Tejas, is how is your engagement when it comes to startups?
Good question. I actually read it and I was thinking, how do I answer that in two folds? One is, yes, we encourage and engage with a lot of startups when it comes to emerging technology that aligns with our vision as well. We also have startup and accelerator programs on the Siemens platform itself, where you can actually register and demonstrate your technologies. We have recently, about as 2018, invested and acquired a few startups as well to grow our portfolio. So Siemens, yes, supports the startup and innovation quite proactively. And we also have a platform called Next 47, and you're invited to actually register and explore a bit more on that. If you need to know more about it, we can connect you to the right colleagues who can actually guide you.
Very well, and actually, another engagement was first-hand experience. I mentioned it earlier with the startups, was with our accelerator itself, when Siemens gave in a lot of valuable insights when it comes to the mentorship, the coaching aspect to it. And I'd love to know more about the Next 47. Is that what it's called?
That's correct. That's correct.
And what's that platform about specifically?
So it's mainly to promote the up-and-coming technologies itself and the new technologies or new innovations. We also encourage individuals to actually try and see how they can leverage the platform. We're happy to share more details about it after, and for you to Tarek circulate amongst the audience as well.
Very well, thank you. Thank you so much. Abdul Hussein, another application which I've recently tried to dig deeper about when it comes to tokenization is around the crowdfunding aspect. Do you have any insights on that regard of where that comes from and where that is today?
Yeah, sure. See, crowdfunding is, I would say, an extension of tokenization, because I mean, you might have heard of things like ICO, which is initial coin offerings, and STO. So what if effectively you do is you tokenize something and then you offer it up as to people to sort of invest. And that the way you do crowdfunding is these tokens are listed on open exchanges for anyone to invest and anyone to purchase. The real estate example that I talked about is essentially the same. Now, if I have an idea, I can actually tokenize the idea or the concept for my startup, right? And offer these tokens to the market and ask people to invest. And every time someone buys a token, they are actually purchasing a part of my equity in the company, right? And the token is going to be traded in the public exchange. And as the company grows, they actually get, the returns on investment and things like that. So I can actually say that my company, I will create 10,000 tokens. And I say these tokens are available for anyone to purchase. And 100 tokens would mean you have 1% of the company, something like that.
Thank you. Thank you very much for those insights. Tejas, another question when it comes to the connected workplace that you mentioned earlier. I guess the focuses that you mentioned were around healthcare and digital office of a workspace and things, but how are the applications on something much more rigid, like an oil rig or something which is around the mining facility or the industries around that. So is that also a focus of where you guys are at, and where is that progress at?
Definitely. I mean, Tarek, you mentioned about two things. One is we don't necessarily have to do everything ourselves. We have a partner ecosystem that we leverage on. So the technology which we spoke about now is more for a condition space. But if you're looking at more of the oil field or external kind of areas, we rely on other experts who can actually do the sensing at the end or on the edge and send all the information back to us. So we provide the platforms which allow you to do all the required analysis and processing. But the edge devices itself sometimes could be Siemens or could be a third party. We have use cases where we've done oil fields, unmanned operations here in the region itself, where all of the oil field or offshore operations are fully unmanned, and that is being supported by Siemens technology, along with some other third-party vendors as well.
Thank you. A question to the both of you, and I guess the answers will go in the form of Tejas, followed by Mr. Abdul Hussein. So challenges is probably an over-asked question, but 2021, 2022, 23, 24, 25, what is the most exciting thing that you're really looking forward to, and not necessarily mentioned today in the chat itself?
One is good question. I mean, yes, we've all seen the challenges of 2020 because of the slowdown itself on recession. But now the markets are opening, and this pandemic has actually driven us to go digital in many ways. Take this webinar, for example. I mean, if it was the normal times, all of us would be actually sat in a conference room or maybe in an auditorium where we would be doing this in person, and it would be limited to only few seats available there. Now we've gone digital, and digitalization is not just in our day-to-day work. Everything, be it micropayments and blockchain and other tokenizations itself, everything is has been bootstrapped because of this pandemic, and we see that this has kind of set the ground for the future also. When we go back to the office, we may never do things like we used to do before. We don't need necessarily that amount of space. When we go to hospitals or when we book appointments for a bank, we may all try to do this in a digital way. And that's what is exciting for us, because we truly believe digitalization has actually been given a kind of a booster dose. And we will see this ramping up in the region and globally in the coming 2 to 3 years. And by 2025, there'll be digitalization in every aspect of our life, if there hasn't already.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Abdul Hussein.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with Tejas. I think the best thing that has come out of this is last year also. I mean, there's been a lot of push on digitization. You know, everything that we never thought we could actually, work from home or do meetings on webinars. I mean, we have all been forced to do something like that. And I think we have all found that it is possible, it is comfortable. Speaking from a point of view of my startup, which is using technology like blockchain to offer digital services, it's an exciting time. Wherein this technology is very radical, and you really have to push people to adopt it, right? And the uncertain times, unfortunately, however, they are actually pushing people to make this adoption faster. And that's where we hope that this momentum will continue, and we will reach a stage where we help realize the UAE leadership's vision of making Dubai and the UAE as a whole the country which adopts blockchain the first in the world.
Absolutely, very understood. And in our perspective as well, when the first global lockdown happened and everyone was quite confused, our leadership, our management internally took a very swift decision to switch everything to a virtual model. And although we did everything on a very bit by bit approach, and rather than having a very unified platform to take us virtual, I think this is where the future is, and this is where, beyond just from a workspace approach in terms of how do you make the digital twin of your ecosystem and take things further and across all the industries. A question, and I think this will be the last question that we can take on before we wrap up from the audience, is directed to Tejas. Is despite innovation and laying everything out, and how is it translated, or how's it applicable when it comes to the monetary benefits? And what are the possible savings for the companies? Who applies and where do these pockets come from?
Great question. I mean, see, once you are able to optimize space, better utilization of space, one is you can easily save on the rent. You realize that the amount of space you actually built or rented is no longer useful because most of your workforce is working from home. Or the same thing, like I said, giving you an example of the retail. You know where are the areas where you need to actually deploy more shopping assistants so they can actually help your customers better to drive your revenues. Same thing, how do you create a better experience? If you go to a clinic and you had to wait for an hour versus you go to another clinic which promises to serve you within the first 5 minutes you're there. Again, all this is data driven. So there are various avenues for you to actually create this revenue, and that's where it comes from. Of course, there are other standard revenues like energy savings or savings in terms of maintenance and upkeep of assets because you're no longer using it, or you're trying to ramp down the air conditioning and lighting you're serving to spaces which are less occupied. These are other areas which actually can contribute towards ROI if you're looking at making your building smart. And ultimately, if you want to create a space which is smarter and you want to attract the better clientele for us tenants, if you see that even in Dubai or in Sharjah, there are certain pockets which are more expensive than the others. That's only because their proximity to the metro, the digital technologies that exist in the location itself, they fetch higher rent per square feet or square meter. And this is what enables technology to create a better real estate and a final customer experience, or also the FM related side of things to reduce the cost itself and increasing the operating income.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, for the answer and for your insights. I'd like to take this opportunity to, first of all, thank all the attendees for your time, and especially to Mr. Tejas and Mr. Abdul Hussein for being with us and sharing your insights on both on a personal and on a corporate and from a startup perspective as well. Us at the park, we're always looking forward to engaging with like-minded ventures, whether they're startups, whether they're SMEs, whether they're corporates or governments or whatever the case is. However we can add value, however they can add value to our ecosystem, we're here to help companies scale across the UAE and across the MENA region, and we're looking forward to engage. Once again, thank you for your time, and have a great week, have a great weekend, and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Let's talk.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye for now.